Today we'll be writing equations of functions. We've previously worked with this particular equation known as slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b, where m is going to be my slope and b is going to be my y-intercept. So let's label those. So the slope is going to be my rate of change, how much I'm going up or down. And then the y-intercept is going to be wherever my line happens to intersect the y-axis. And between those two things, I can graph any linear relationship, even if it goes through the origin. Then that would mean it's a proportional relationship. But for non-proportional, I do need to know this y-intercept. Today we're going to take this equation one step further, and we're going to use word problems and put them into this particular equation. Now on this one, for my slope, this is going to be some sort of ongoing fee or charge, something that's going to be consistent every month. And the b in our problems are going to be some sort of one-time fee or an existing amount. So we're going to see how we can write these word problems in this form in order to create a line off of that information. So here we have our first example. We have Jason pays a $100 installation fee and a $40 monthly service charge for his telephone. Write an equation that shows the amount that Jason pays for X months of telephone service. So the first thing we're going to do is identify our numbers in this problem. So we do have two. We have 100 and we have 40. Then we want to look at our question, which says write an equation that shows the amount that he pays for X months of telephone service. And then we're going to start looking for our keywords. So 100 is a fee. And this definitely sounds like a one-time fee, that he's only paying this one time when he gets it installed. But $40 says that it's a monthly charge, which means that this is ongoing. So previously when we wrote equations, we would write this as 40x plus 100, because the 40 tells me that it's ongoing and the 100 is the one-time fee. The only change that we're making to this is that instead of just making it an expression, remember an expression does not have an equal sign, we're going to make it equal to y. So you're still going to write your expression, then it's going to be equal to y. And here's how it becomes handy. So we'll draw us a little thing. So this is going to start at 100 because that's what he's paying even before he starts getting monthly service charges. So obviously this is going to be our money over here, and this is going to be his months of service. So we've got 1, 2, 3. So this is 0. So at 0 months he's gotten here. We know that now he's going by 40s. So up at 140. We're going to have a dot. At 180, we're going to have a dot. At 220, we're going to have another dot. And look, it makes a nice line. And so it gives us a good graph of what kind of money he is spending on his telephone. But it also lets us go and predict future amounts of how much total he is spending on this particular telephone plan. And then, like, if he wanted to switch, he could make one off of a different plan, and you could see if it has the same type of slope. There's lots of different applications for this. So basically what we're doing is we're going into the problem, we're finding our one-time fee, we're finding what the ongoing charge is, or we're adding this per month, subtracting this per month, etc., etc. And then now, instead of just leaving it as an expression, we're setting it equal to y. So let's look at a problem that doesn't give me both the slope and the y-intercept. So let's see how we can attack this. We've got Joan plans to add 12 photos in her album each week. After 8 weeks, there are 120 photos in the album. Assume the relationship is linear. Determine and interpret the rate of change and initial value. That's your y-intercept, by the way. Write the equation y equals mx plus b form. So, again, let's start looking at our info. They've given us 12 photos at 8 weeks and 120. They want us to determine and interpret the rate of change, that's my slope, and the initial value, and write the equation. So let's look at 12. I am seeing that she is adding each week. And now this tells me that this is going to be the rate of change, or the slope, because it's going to be 12 per week. Now here I have two numbers together, and this says at 8 weeks there are 120 photos. So because there's two numbers, this here is really an ordered pair that is part of her graph, if we were to graph this out. So they've given us the slope, and we'll call that m, and they've given us an ordered pair, but they have not given us the b. So there are two equally valid ways to find the b. One is using the slope form, and the other is using y equals mx plus b itself. So I will show you both, and you can choose whichever way you prefer. So the slope formula, as we've already determined, is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 equals slope. So we're going to have to plug some numbers in here. And remember, for slope, you need to have 2 points. And you're like, well, okay, I have 1 point, but where's the other point? I would have 2 variables. And you do, but you don't. I know for a fact that my y-intercept is going to be somewhere where x is 0, but I don't know my y. So we can now plug this in, since we know that. So I'm going to make this x1 and y1, x2 and y2, just so that it subtracts out nicely. So I'm going to get 120 minus y, and I don't know it yet, over 8 minus 0, and I know it's going to equal 12. So 8 minus 0, guys, is just 8. And now we have a fraction on the bottom. And so what I'm going to want to do is multiply an 8 through to cancel that out. I'm also going to have to do that over on this side. So 8 times 12 is 96. So I have 120 minus y equals 96. I need to get rid of the 120. I am going to subtract that from both sides. 120 minus 96 is 24. So So I have negative y equals negative 24. Multiply both sides by negative 1. And I've got y equals 24. So this is going to be that initial value. Is going to be b. So now I can actually write my equation. I'm going to have y equals 12x plus 24, because 24 is, in fact, the number of photos that she started with. And now that I have both of those, I can write my equation. So the second way that we can solve this is just to plug everything into y equals mx plus b. So let's review. We know that 12 is the m, and we know that 8, 120 is a point, and that this is an x, and that is a y. So if I've got y equals mx plus b, I can put 120 in for y. I can put 12 in for m. I can put 8 in for x. And I don't know b. So I'm going to get 120 equals 96 plus b. I'm going to subtract the 96 from both sides. And I'm going to get b equals 24. And so I can just go ahead and plug that in. I have y equals 12x plus 24. And so now you can see I have the exact same answer that I had before. Whichever way you prefer, using this one or the slope formula, will give you the same answer. You just need to plug in whatever point they give you for x and y. So finally, let's look at an example where all they do is give us a bunch of points and don't actually give us the slope or the y-intercept, which means you are going to have to find both. So this table shows how much money Ava saved. Assume the relationship between the two quantities is linear. Determine and interpret the rate of change and initial fee. So I'm going to start by finding the slope. It just makes sense. So I can pick whatever 2 points on here I want. So I'm just going to go pick the first two. So I'm going to make this x1, y1, x2, y2. And I've got my formula y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 equals m. And then I'm just going to go ahead and start plugging in. So I'm going to have 130 minus 110 over 4 minus 3. That conveniently is 1. This is going to be 20. So my slope is going to be 20. So now I have to go find the y-intercept. And I would prefer to use the method where I use y equals mx plus b. So I know that my slope is 20. And I can pick whatever point that I want for the x and the y. So I'm just going to pick the first point, okay? Doesn't matter. It'll work with whatever point you use. So the y is 110. The m is 20. We just calculated that. The x is going to be 3. And the b, I don't know. So 20 times 3 is 60. We're going to subtract that 60 from both sides. It's going to be 50 equals b. So my equation is going to be y equals 20x plus 50. Now we need to interpret this. So look, this is the months, and this is the amount of money she saved. So if we want to interpret this, the 50 is my initial fee, and that's going to be how much she initially had already in her account before she started saving. This 20, that's the rate of change, that's going to be how much money she is putting into her account per month. So see, this is the initial value, And this is that rate of change that's monthly or yearly or whatever your problem specifies. So that is how you write equations off of a slope and a y-intercept, a slope and a point, or a table of values.